Welcome to Not Nicole, episode 11. Today is Wednesday, January 22nd, and it is about 5 after 10. So 10 a.m. Central Daylight Time. I am out in my sewing loft. It is weirdly cool for July, and I say cool. It's only supposed to be in the mid 70s today, which is like 20 degrees lower than I expect for July. So thankfully, I can be nice and comfortable, and I don't need the fan running or the air conditioner running. So I can sit back in my comfy chair, my lazy boy that I bought a very long time ago. So today I am drinking Bigelow's Salted Caramel, which is a seasonal tea that I buy in bulk. It is a black tea. I do have a little bit of milk and nut pod in here. Since it's such a large mug, I think it's like 18 ounces, I did a double brew and it was a little stronger, so that's why I ended up adding some milk. This cup, I'm pretty sure that I bought it was probably 2009, when I went to Disney World with my sister and her family. My nephew was like 5 at the time, and he can now drink. I'm very sure it was an expensive mug at the time, but cost per use, since it's lasted 17 years, it is very cheap. I mean, it's held up really well. Today, I'm wearing my Stripes tee. So this is a pattern by Andrea Mowry. And she has two options where you can either cast on and pick up to put the ribbed neckband on, or just start with the ribbed neckband. I started with the ribbed neckband. It is sport weight, and I did an in-between size. So I guess I will need to create a Ravelry project and put all that in there. Essentially what I did is she recommends, like 2 to 4 inches of positive ease. But then her pattern only gave me the option of 1 inch or 6 inch. And I get that, I'm covered in the standard 5 sizes. I'm very fortunate that I'm covered in the standard 5 sizes. Not fortunate. I work at it. It is something I am conscious of, and I have good genetics that assist me as well. But I don't understand patterns that recommend, like 2 to 4 inches of ease and then have 5-inch gaps, because that's the way the grading works, and they don't have multiple gradings. And I've run into that with some other designers as well. And that is honestly a decision point for me in buying patterns anymore. If I have to do math to get my desired ease, I don't buy the pattern, because I've got plenty of patterns in my queue to knit, so I don't need to be buying more patterns that I have to do math to get the ease that I want. Anyway, so I did some interesting math in the first round of increases. So it's a lifted increase, and it's like every 4 or something, every 4th row do a lifted increase or something like that. And essentially every few times, because I wanted an in-between size between the 3 and the 4, I skipped an increase or something like that. And then I had to do something a little funny, but I ended up exactly between the 3 and the 4 by changing the pickups. And then Essentially your pickups just end up in a row. And so I just kept those in a row. But it got me what I think is a very good amount of ease. So just a little bit of ease in my bust and some nice ease there. I ended it, that's about mid hip, right? My high hip is here. So a little bit past high hip. And then every single yarn that is used in here, except for one, which was this one. I think maybe I have talked about this before. Every single yarn had been used in another project. And then this one was a sample that was sent to me. It was just like 10 grams. And so I used it in here. And I think I still have 4 grams left. And that was actually just a magpie feather held single. So that worked up out of sport weight really nicely. But I love this sweater. And I don't have it in Ravelry currently, but if I do end up getting it added to Ravelry, I will include a link to it there. I did actually take some really nice FO pictures out at Red Rock when we went last year, because I finished it, knit it and finished it last year. Yeah. All right. We are going to jump into an almost finished object. The finished almost. And the reason why I'm saying almost is because of all of those. You can see all those markers. So this is the Waystone Pullover by Alicia Plummer. And I believe she did an update that originally I thought it was going to be released the 23rd, which would have been tomorrow, but I think she pushed it to the 30th. And you're like, why is she coming out with this DK worsted weight sweater in July? Well, it's her Rhinebeck sweater, so a sweater she'll be wearing at Rhinebeck this year. And I don't honestly know if I'll ever go to Rhinebeck because the pictures I see of how many people are there is not my thing. I don't like huge crowds. Maybe I'll wait for a year where it's supposed to be rainy and really cold, and then I'll go. Because I don't mind the rain and the cold. Anyway, so this is blocked, but I still have some ends to weave in. And I mean, I have just so many ends to weave in the shoulder. I ran out of yarn when I was binding off. I don't think even binding off when I was whip stitching the collar down. And so I had a random scrap of yarn. Like, you know, I ended up, from when I did this side, because I had a little bit of yarn left when I finished the back, and then I used that little bit I had left to do this side of the collar, because I was trying to maximize my usage without having too many ends. But then I went and I used that bit to do the collar, or I used my second skein to do the collar, but I didn't leave a long enough tail. So I used, like, I haven't cut it yet because I'll weave it in and cut it. And I keep things like that for weaving in ends. And actually, I still need to weave some ends in, so I'll clean this up. It's very loosey-goosey, whereas it's nice, much tighter and nice on this side. I do love the way this Gilliatt has blocked. It looks much tighter, except at the pickup points. All right, let's talk about the markers in the sleeve. Why does it only one sleeve? Because I already woven all the ends on this sleeve. That one just needs trimmed. I don't cut them until after I'm done blocking. So I wove those in before I blocked it. So I took off all those markers. All right. So I set myself, because I was trying to get this done, how many rows to do in a day. So I put in a marker at the top of the sleeve every day that I started. So I got this sleeve done in 5 days. This sleeve over here I got done in 4 days. So I don't know. I think maybe I didn't work out here as much. So I took 5 days to get this sleeve done. And then these markers here, so there are 18 sleeve decreases. So every time I did a decrease, I marked that stitch so that I could easily track where that decrease was. And then this marks when I transitioned to my smaller needles to do the cuff. And so you can see that the fisherman's rib just goes straight into the ribbing, but on a smaller needle. And the cuff really is supposed to be about 11 inches. So it's very loose and fits very much like a sweatshirt, which was the goal. So measured flat, I'm at 24 inches. So if you double that, that is 48. And then if you add some depth, so it's supposed to be 48 and a half. So I'm feeling pretty good about right on gauge. It ended up a bit longer. I was going for 12 and a half from underarm, and I think I'm at about like 13, 14 after blocking. Honestly, I think I need to measure it again. So my plan is to get some finished object photos tonight in the golden hour, which should be about after 7:30 here. Sunset is at 8:37, so get some lovely photos in the golden hour. I'll have to be quick since I expect it'll be about 70 degrees, and this is a worsted weight fisherman's rib sweater, half brioche. Anyway, I love it, and I have different plans for the future, but the first one that I started, that maroon one, I do totally plan to rip that out and knit the same size, but my gauge is off, so it'll end up a little smaller. All right, so that is the Waystone Pullover by Alicia Plummer, which should be out on the 30th. If you check out my social media, which is on Instagram at Nicole's_bubbles, will be linked in the description. When that is released, I will definitely be sharing that on my socials. All right, let's dive into next the staple tank. So I've decided this is my new focus just because it's so close to the end. So this is I'm tucking in all the ends I have to weave in. There are a lot. And it's more because it's 2 yarns held together. So this is my staple tank. And so this is where I was on the last episode. Because my primary concern was my waystone. So on my waystone, I managed both the sleeves and the collar, because I think I had just bound off the shoulders from the last episode. And so I did actually finish that Sunday. So it was just Sunday that I finished that. So it was like 2 days for the collar, 5 days for the sleeve, 4 days for the second sleeve. So 11 days for the collar and the 2 sleeves. But yeah, so staple tank. I'm really loving this. So I am, if you can see, I don't know how well you can see, right? How it goes in and then it starts coming out here. So I am putting shaping in. Harder to see, I think, on this side. So I am doing increases for my hips and so I have 10 rows, most likely. So 10 rows left to do 5 increases. So the increases I am doing every other row, but I'm only doing front or back. So every other row I'm increasing the front, and then 2 rows increasing the back, and then 2 rows increasing the front. So, I mean, there's definitely, you know, a sloping there, but since it's alternating, I think it works out really well. It is meant to have 3 to 4 inches of negative ease, so it will follow my body and stretch. There's definitely a gauge difference. I don't know that you can see it in the camera, but I can definitely see it in front of me because I didn't go up a needle size. But I think that will be okay. That it will hold me more, hold it in place more around my torso. So it's actually pretty soft because it's cotton. One of the reasons why I'm really excited about it and want to get it done now, just, you know, we're heading into August. July is going to get warmer again. So to have a primarily cotton tank top will be very nice. So yeah, about 10 rows, maybe 12, depending on length, and then about that much ribbing. Maybe a bit more, about 1.5 inches of ribbing. And I think I might actually do the ribbing on the same needles. I don't think I'm going to go down because I don't want it to pull in too much. And then looking at yarn, this is how much of this one I have left. So, well, these two were the same. So this is the organic cotton fingering, 437 yards. I am not sure. It's going to be darn close whether I'm going to have to wind this one up. And then this is the Vegan Sock by LaRue Cotton. So LaRue Cotton is dying again. So she does have orders up and available on her website. So that was a very exciting announcement. She brought back her colors of the month from last year, which includes After Party, which is another like purple pink. It's really lovely. Anyway, staple tank. This one will be fully done by the next episode. I might even be wearing it. And Waystone will have all its ends woven in and have been released by the next episode. This is in a bag by me, not Nicole. So this is one of my 24-inch bags. I moved this to it after the last episode. I wanted to show what that would look like. So if you saw, I have a full skein of yarn in there that is unwound. Plus the working skeins and the tank top are all in here. So 24-inch bag. Then it has the drawstring that can just tuck down into the bag when I'm working, like if I'm not closing it. And actually in this case, I was talking to my sister and she's like, why is your drawstring casing so big? And that is so when the bag is full and I have stuff in it and I drawstring it closed, I still have the majority of that 24 inches available in the bag. It doesn't narrow the bag at the top, which I didn't care for. All right, next up is the Attagirl. So I did actually hear from Corey Eichelberger. This is test knit for her. And she's wanting tester feedback by August 1st. I can provide that feedback, but I will not be done with it. Right now, my goal is to work on this 6 rows a day. This mesh, it just, my hands don't like it. my arms don't like it, honestly. It's, I don't know. I remember doing a Reina when I first learned to knit. It's a free one skein shawl pattern on Ravelry. And I still love that shawl. It's a mix of garter and mesh. So you have a garter section and mesh section. It's a good one to learn to play with your slip knits. But I did go down significantly in needle size, 2 needle sizes, and I am getting a much smaller mesh. Now with this smaller mesh, I totally believe I could wear this with nothing but like a full coverage bra underneath. I wouldn't wear like a lacy bra, but something more like a sport bra I could totally wear underneath with as tiny as that mesh is. Now that I had to go down needle size. So I haven't worked on it much. I did put this little stitch marker in. Yarn Refuge is what that says. That is a yarn store in Reno, Nevada. So same town as Jimmy Bean, but a local yarn store. So we stopped there in October 2004, and it was after that area's yarn crawl. And so she gave me one of those. Anyway, so that bit more than an inch is how far I've gotten since the last episode. And honestly, that has been since I finished the Waystone. I expect by the next episode, which will be in August, that I will have the sleeves and the body split. My goal is once I get about an inch of the body done, so I have about 12 rows before I split, and then do about an inch of the body, and then I will come back and finish the sleeves, because there's something pretty fun about having the finishing done. I might even do the neckline before I finish the body. So I have this on multiple needles because I'm using different size needles for the mesh and the stockinette. So I switched to a US 3, which is a 3.25 millimeter. And in the stockinette, I'm using a US 6, which is 4 millimeter. So technically that is 3 needle size different. But I have clips in my hair. They always catch. It is not nearly as oversized as when there was a mesh gauge given that was should not have been included. Anyway, but I think this will work. I'm going for about 4 inches of positive ease on this. So it is a pickup, and that was something I did on purpose. I wanted to be able to cinch in the neckline if I thought it was getting too big. with the ribbing, because then I can just pick up on a smaller needle. It adds a more rigid neckline. Honestly, I don't know that I want a ribbing neckline, but so we'll see, right? So my staple tank is, I want to get that done because it's so close to the finish, but I am doing 6 rows a day on the Attagirl. I do believe this one is going to be released sometime early September, and I should definitely have it done before then. I don't know. Not sure. It is getting warmer in here than I expected. All right. Last work in progress. This is one of my prototype bags, which is pretty much what my 20-inch bags look like, though this one was a little short. It's about 19 and a half. But I am working on a pair of socks. So last episode, I was about 2 rows into the heel, or about, well, 4 rows, 2 repeats of a front and back. So I was into the heel, so I finished the heel in the heel turn and picked up stitches. So starting the gusset. So what's interesting on this one is I picked up 20 stitches each side. I mean, I maybe over pick up stitches, but I never have to worry about holes. So it works for me. So I picked up 20 stitches, and then I had 20 after the heel turn. So it's about 60 stitches in the back half. But rather than getting down to 36, because it's a 72 stitch up here, I am going to just decrease 20 stitches to get to 40. And I don't know. In my last sock that I completed, my husband really liked the fit on his foot, which was a 76, which just means I'll have to finagle things a bit for the toe, which is fine. Essentially those 2 stitches that were picked up in the corner, that extra stitch picked up from the running yarn, will become considered part of the front stitches when I do the toe, which after 87 rows from the pickup, you won't be able to see the difference. But yeah, so he really liked the foot of his last sock, but the leg was a little loose. So we're doing different stitch counts, and I will just decrease less. So that I have 40 in the back, which will make a 76. But so obviously once I get that staple tank done, this will be anytime I leave the house, my knitting. So I expect that I will absolutely have this sock done, but we'll see how far I get on the next on the next one by the next episode. So I'm very excited. I have a plan of action. It's kind of like debt pay down. I really want to get the Attagirl done, but I'll get the staple tank done a lot faster, right? So that I'm not dividing my time. And so I'm very excited to be making progress on my WIPS. I do actually have some plans for my next WIPS. So the next shirt I will cast on is the Pop Rock Tee by Tana's Fiber Arts. She also dyes yarn as well as has patterns. But the yarn that I have for it is some knitting for Olive cotton merino in a darker blue and a lighter blue that I picked up from Amy Scher's shop when she had a sale. And I'm excited for that one. So it's fingering weight. And then that cotton merino will be a nice summer yarn. And blue on blue stripe, which will look great with anything but blue jeans. But honestly, I threw out my denim shorts because they were like 5 years old and the elastic had broken or released. Anyway, so blue and khaki will work great. So yeah, so that will be my next top. And then I bought yarn. Well, I had yarn. I had 3 skeins from a gnome kit from Miss Babs. And so I showed it here on this podcast, and I called Miss Babs and got a 4th mini skein and then a skein of yarn, and we'll be making this quilt star. So I think I will probably wait until I finish the Attagirl to start either of those. So maybe once I'm done with, I get all the ends woven in and remove the markers on the Waystone and finish the staple tank, I might, because it hurts my hands, try to do more than 6 rows a day, but break it up to multiple areas. And then, yeah, so, because I really want to get that done so I can start new things. So maybe not next episode, but the episode after that will be all the new things. Anyway, I did buy some yarn. So I follow Kayla Litton, the crazy sock lady. And this is Leap of Faith yarn. She actually on her Instagram today posted her finished pair 56 for the year. I mean, she does not work outside the home. She works, but she doesn't work outside the home. She's the crazy sock lady, so she does a lot of socks. 56. I will be lucky if I get to 10 this year. Anyway, but I loved this color. Sadly, I ordered it on a pre-order and I checked their website before this. It is no longer available. The colorway is called Dart Frog. It is a 75-25 superwash merino nylon at 437 yards. I plan to make socks for Jeff out of this. It is just, blue is his favorite color. And I'm like, this would match his truck. And like most of the blues in his wardrobe. So I don't think it's bad for him to have 4 pairs of blue socks. Variety, right? Variety. Yeah. So I bought that one, which was a pre-order. But I also bought this one. This is called Blue Raspberry Twist. And on their website, it was a bit different. I don't think it was as, I don't know. I thought there was more of the green. But Blue Raspberry Twist. I really liked this one. It's the same sock base, the Superwash Merino Nylon. And this one, there are actually still some on the website. And then there's another one that was pretty similar that I don't think I saw because I was a bit tempted. So those are my yarn acquisitions, Leap of Faith yarn. I do actually have more yarn coming. It's a problem. At least 2 more orders, plus my monthly mini skeins from Leading Men Fiber Arts. Hence, I need to finish these WIPs and get started on more. Oh, all right. I'm going to jump into sewing projects. So I did finish the Presley shirt for Jeff. So this is the third time I've made this shirt. And can I just say, holy cow, this was a pure accident. Like, if I pull it tight enough, you can't tell there are layers there. Like, how did I manage that? I don't know, but it's freaking awesome. I didn't plan it. It was pure happy accident. We will appreciate happy accidents. All right, a few modifications. So the Presley shirt pattern is what I use. It's by Charm Patterns. So I was part of their Patreon, and essentially it was easier to just hack a pattern that I had access to because Patreon, than trying to find a different pattern. So first modification, the pattern is written so that like it will hug the bicep. My husband didn't want that. So I lengthened the sleeve, kind of changed the slope and lengthened the sleeve. And then it has a separate cuff that it uses for the sleeve, and I just did a fold over. So when I cut the pattern piece, I just have a straight section. That is about 1.25 inches, and then that is what is sewn for the hem on his shirt sleeve. So that is a very obvious change, but pretty simple, right? Just lengthen the sleeve, change the slope. The second thing I did is I straightened the side seam. It's a very interesting pattern. I forget the actual designer's name, Colin something, that collaborated with Gertie for Charm Patterns for that release. And so she actually does show her wearing a version of that shirt as well. But the pattern is made for waist shaping. Now, I suppose if you're some gym bro, having a fitted shirt that narrows at your waist is probably a good thing. But most men I know, that wouldn't work. Anyway, so I straightened the side seam. Now I am kind of thinking I have some leftover leftover fabric. This is the wrong side. Pretty significant amount of leftover fabric. So I made Jeff and I matching, him a shirt and me a shirt dress. And I'm actually thinking about making myself a matching shirt and following the original pattern with the shorter sleeve and the waist shaping. Could be cute. I might have to go down a size. I'm not sure. Maybe. As far as I can tell, there's only like a 1/2 inch difference in the shoulder between each one. All right, so I did add a pocket, a single pocket. I did not follow the directions on how to sew that on because I like enclosed seams. Like, I don't get some of the construction of that shirt. Oh, fun. The buttons, they are 1/2 inch. Let's show that one. So they are 1/2 inch coconut buttons. So, made out of coconut. Jeff bought a whole collection of them. All right, now here's the big hack, was this and this. So Jeff has some ready-to-wear shirts that he loves that have a back venting and then mesh there. So if you think about it, if there's any kind of breeze, then it can go up through the shirt, and then you have this athletic mesh, moisture wicking. I get that from Mood. And that. So essentially I just do a thick rolled hem. So I cut both the pieces standard, but I just changed the construction. So I just did a rolled edge there. And then I essentially flat felled these seams. So I sewed the back piece to the bottom yoke, and then I trimmed the seam allowance of the mesh, and I folded the seam allowance of the back piece over the mesh seam allowance, and then I stitched it down. So you can see from the inside. And then I just sewed a box around there. You can actually see it on this because the top yoke is a smidge lower than that. And then, let's see, changes in how it was sewn. I did the burrito method on the seam allowance. Let's see. And maybe that's silly because I'm having trouble finding the seam allowance. There we go. So there's the shoulder seam here. And I mean, so part of it is covered by the front facing, but not all of it. And it literally would just have you sew it and then like press it. And I'm just like, why? The burrito method totally works. It's so much easier. And then your seams are inside. And then you hand stitch the front facing down. I serged this edge after it was sewn, so that I could enclose the seam. And then I flat felled the seam allowance for the sleeve. And the side seam. So enclosed that in there. Sorry. Big crow. We have a murder of crows that hangs around. And isn't that just fun to say? A murder of crows. Yeah. I mean, so some just changes to the direction on how I sewed it, how I finished the seam, and some changes. I mean, honestly, for the yoke piece, I don't know that I've ever seen a sewing pattern with that back vent, but I did it first for my brother-in-law who wanted a concealed carry vest. And I was like, I figured out how to do it for him because he runs hot. He's a bigger guy. And so I was like, well, I can totally do it on Jeff's shirt. Technically, I think I could get away with making this shorter. But I think it works. I mean, I think it will work. Jeff needs to wear it before I make him his second one for Hawaii. But so then he'll have 4. I really need to modify the sleeves on his first one. Those I just did straight sleeves. They're way too big. I could totally modify that without taking the shirt apart. Anyway, I'm very proud of this. I do have some pictures of Jeff wearing it, so I will crop those down and post them in so you can see what it looks like on a body versus on a hanger. It definitely makes a difference. All right. I don't want to set this on the floor, so. All right, next up, let's talk about some of my bags. So I did finish the last of my Independence Day bags, you know, in the second half of July. So I do have these. So I finished those, I think, on Saturday. So they do have some minor differences, like that one has that inside, that one has that inside. We have, I think the rest of these are all that white with red inside. Is that 3, 4, and then the 5th one. Oh, so that one also has the red, white, and blue in it. So these 5 are finished. And then I have enough cut out to make another 10. And honestly, I packed that up and I will work on it next May and get those finished. When I get a shop page set up, I will have these listed in case anybody does want them. Right now I'm debating whether I want to do Etsy or whether I want to do like a Shopify or Square. Mostly because I've been thinking about setting up an affiliate link with Amazon, and to do that, I need a website. So if I'm going to set up a website, maybe I should just set up a shopping website. I need to figure out what the cost is. All right, so I did work out some new bags that I am going to make. And let's see if I can hold this up without dropping it. Oh, there we go. That'll work, just like this. So, whoop! I didn't get them all. Okay, I'm going to try that again. I think it's important to have them laid out similar to how they'd be. All right. Okay, so we'll just hold with both hands. Maybe, or we'll see. Okay. So this will be one set of bags. So this outside fabric, or this fabric here, that will be the interior of the bag. These 4 strips of fabric will be quilted together like the other bags. These are the pockets, and then these will be cut down and will be the D-rings inside the bag. And then I have separate fabric for the drawstring casing, but let me show you this one. All right, so this is my second one. So that is the bag lining. These squares here are the pockets. And then there are the 4 strips that will be quilted to the batting. And then these will be cut down to hold the D-rings. I actually ended up video calling my sister to work through those. All right, and so this is the beginning of it's the equivalent of 2. I have 5 for everything else. So the material I did for the pocket, I have some left over of that, so that may end up as being used as well. But so this is enough for 2 bags, the drawstring casing. So I've essentially decided, I know 2 weeks ago I talked about the rolled hem feet, and so I decided, rather than having half of the bag, the drawstring sewn together like this one is, that I will have them both open like this one is. And honestly, once the drawstring is closed, I don't think that will make a significant difference. And I think it will also make it easier, less stiff, to be able to tuck inside the bag, or even potentially laid over the bag, but with the handles, it tucks easier inside the bag. But so that was me playing. All right, where did I put it? One moment. Well, I was going to show you the sample piece I had done with those feet. And I had it before I set up everything to record this episode. But apparently I set it someplace safe. And I don't know where I put it. I'm going to call that perimenopause brain. Anyway, I'm having issues with the feet. And I think it's experience. So, you know, you can look at that right there, that rolled hem. It's not quite right. But then if I look there, I apparently put too much fabric in or not enough fabric. It has this weird roll in it, but really it's like wider, and that's there. Honestly, I did this side and then I completely ripped it out. Oh, hey, it was hiding between the layers. All right, so that was the first side I did. It looks like crap. This is the second side I did. It looks amazing. Yeah. Like, I'm looking at that and it looks so damn good. Okay, that's the edge where I started, so that doesn't count. Because it's not going to look good when you start. You kind of have to pre-start it. Anyway, so I thought it would be easy. It's not easy. It's not. I mean, like, that just looks terrible. So I'm going to end up ripping that out and redoing it. And then, I mean, you can really see it from the outside here, right? Like, it's not straight. Like, this section here looks good. But then that one, it's not rolled under. That's the raw edge. And here it's all wrinkled. Yeah. I think this is also the raw edge there. So I have a lot to learn with those rolled edge feet. Eventually, I will figure it out and it will be super duper fast. So essentially, I'm doing the rolled edge because I don't want to have to do the start 4 times. Though I will end up on these. But so I'm playing with the rolled edge foot that I got 2 weeks ago. And that is definitely a learning experience. But hopefully I will get those done today. And then the next step is really sewing the strips together and then cutting them up into these individual pieces. So it's definitely a process for this bag. It's definitely a challenge, and we all need some challenges in our life, right? It feels so good when you conquest it. And I guess as with knitting, I'm not afraid to rip out. I will rip out if I need to for sewing. It's not as fun as knitting, you know, rip, frog. It's not as fun with sewing. I was ripping something out, I think, on Jeff's shirt. I stabbed myself with my seam ripper. I use a fancy seam ripper. And yeah, I managed to stab myself. It went through my shirt. it went through my skirt and it went through me. I was like, oh, damn, that's sharp. But it's not so sharp anymore. So I think cutting skin dulled it. But, so I changed the blade again. And yeah, as when working with knives, right? Don't turn it towards you. Turn it away. Turn it away. But, so, you have to be very careful you don't cut your fabric with that one as well. If I don't use the seam ripper, typically I have some small scissors. They're embroidery scissors, very sharp. I once had them in a knitting bag and stabbed myself with those too. They were very sharp. I didn't even notice. I didn't even notice until I had blood on my leg because it went through the bag, through my jeans, and into my leg. So I actually have a little white scar on my leg from those. So those don't go in my knitting bag anymore. They live by my sewing machine. If I need to trim thread, things like that, that's what those scissors are for now, because they come to a very sharp point. But that very sharp point means that I can also use it to take out seams if I need to. So, whew. Well, this episode is turning pretty long. I haven't really been doing much in the last 2 weeks. I mean, I'm just hanging out at home. I go to Friday yarn group. I'm calling it yarn group because there's knit, there's crochet. Ladies bring in their weaving. So yarn group. And, Friday yarn group, shopping as needed, taking care of the garden. I need to actually do some more trellising on my roses and probably trimming sprouts. We keep getting pop-up storms, so about every 4 or 5 days we get about an inch of rain. So I haven't need to turn the water back on. That is actually a methodology of global warming. As it gets warmer, more water is evaporated, more water in the atmosphere actually means that we get more storms. So I think we probably won't get anything as long as it's hanging out in the 70s, but most of the storms were happening when it was in the 90s. So my husband did insulate around the skylights, which has turned out to be a very good thing. It's made a huge difference on the humidity up here in the loft when it gets late in the day. Honestly, I thought about putting a curtain over this window, but once the sun gets about 2 o'clock, it's past the house in such a way that there's no direct light coming in this window. I mean, there's still light, but it's not sunlight coming through. Most of the sunlight that I get is in the morning, primarily through the skylights. So anyway, not much life happening. I've been listening to a lot of YouTube. There are 2 that I really like that I haven't been watching because I need to watch. And most of the knitting stuff and then like the random, kindness AI crap, which I shouldn't be watching. I don't have to look at the screen. They're just talking. Or maybe like they'll show something, but you have plenty of time to look at that. So anyway, thank you to everybody who has watched this long. I've apparently talked a really long time. I hope you enjoyed. If you do, I would love it if you liked or subscribed. You can find me again on Instagram at Nicole's_bubbles. And on Ravelry, if you want to see my projects, I have both of those linked at the top of the description below the video. And I will be back in 2 weeks. Actually, definitely 2 weeks. Maybe I will have a needle organization video. I ordered some stuff from Amazon, so I'll talk about it if I get that episode. Hopefully that would be next week. I'm kind of excited about it. Anyway, so definitely a subject specific episode and then regular knitting update podcast in 2 weeks. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. And I so appreciate you hanging out with me. Thanks.